Our next session focuses on India, the promising growth story for international foods. With global trends pervading the mindset of the Indian consumer, it is but natural that food preferences of Indian consumers will also increasingly show a global flavor. And this is reflected not only in the shopping carts of customers at malls, but also the shelves of what the malls stock, as also the local kirana stores. It's a segment with huge potential, and we have here a distinguished panel who will discuss ways and means to increase the growth in this ever increasingly important segment. Please welcome on stage our distinguished panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Agriculture Attaché, United States Department of Agriculture, Adam Branson. He is the Chief Executive Officer, Gulf Processing Industries. A warm welcome to Chandar Dudeja. She is the Director, Tree of Life. Please, let's put your hands together for Harshita Gandhi. A warm welcome to the Founding Director, Food and Drink Exporters Association, UK, Elsa Fairbanks. He is Director General, Japan External Trade Organization. Please welcome Hidehiro Shiura. A warm welcome to the Managing Director, Fortune Gourmet, Jehangir Lawyer. He is founder and director, Friend of the Sea, Friend of the Earth. Let's hear it for Paolo Bray. And let's put our hands together and welcome on stage our moderator, Managing Director, Godrej Nature's Basket, Mr. Mohit Khattar. And over to Mr. Mohit Khattar to invite our lead speaker, and thereafter take over from him.
Our lead speaker for today is Mr. Sumit Saran, Head International Food Business, Future Group. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the growth of international food products in India. To begin with, what are international food products? Are we talking only about products that are imported, or are we talking about products that are perhaps international in provenance, but not necessarily imported? It could be either. We're talking about India, a market that is perhaps one of the largest and also perhaps one of the most complex. We're talking about a market size of food products that is currently estimated at roughly about 500 billion US dollars. It's huge, it's humongous. Bigger than the market size, bigger than the GDP of many of the smaller countries that we know of. One. Two, we are looking at a food consumption growth rate of 5% in the country. And if we look at specifically the growth rate of international foods in India, then we're talking about a growth rate which is double of 5%. It's actually currently estimated to be at about 13%. So we're talking about a market for international or unconventional or non-traditional food products going at twice or perhaps little more than twice the rate of the conventional food products that we see in the country. We're talking about consumers who are changing very fast. We're talking about not just in terms of the palette that they have, in terms of the buying basket, but also in terms of the channels where they buy from. For example, we are currently looking at an online boom in the country where online is growing at roughly about 45 to 50% annually. How big is really food buying within that? Is it big or is it insignificant? And therein, does there lie an opportunity? So to discuss all of these topics and perhaps many more that will come up with our eclectic panel, I'd request each one of our panel members to briefly introduce their organization and themselves, and then we get into the first presentation, which is where Sumit will come and address all of you. So we'll start with Adam.
So, thank you very much for the kind introduction. My name is Adam Branson. I am with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I am the USDA representative for, here in southern India. And our interest in India is primarily threefold. One, we want to try to provide information on the market, opportunities, supply, demand, challenges, and in India. Two, we want to try to provide a reasonable perspective when it comes to market access negotiations and trying to help broaden and expand the market here in India. And third, we work on market promotion, some directly through the U.S. government, but also through our 74, 75 different cooperator organizations which represent different U.S. commodity groups.
Hi everybody, I am Chandra Dudeja representing Gulf Processing Industries from Dubai. And we are a manufacturer of culinary product which includes sauces, dressing and condiments. And from Dubai manufacturing unit, we are exporting our product to about 40 countries. So India is our target future market, and we are looking for routes to market in India, and we want to explore our products. And these are urban market products and as well as a very huge demand in the HoReCa segment. So we are discussing with the different companies to launch our products in the India market. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Harshita Gandhi. I represent a company called Tree of Life. It's a company that is an entry strategy for international food brands that see India as a viable long-term strategy for their products. We represent about 18 international brands cutting across varied categories, beverages, snacks, cuisine-based products, dairy products, a pretty vast array of various categories that we represent across the country.
Good afternoon. I'm Elsa Fairbanks and I'm a director of the UK Food and Drink Exporters Association. We work very closely with UK Trade and Investment in India and the UK India Business Council. And I'm here to help people understand the many opportunities that we all know are available in the Indian market, but also to understand some of the challenges and how we can adapt our products to ensure that Indian consumers want to buy products that come from Britain.
Good afternoon. I'm Hidehiro Ishiura from Japan External Trade Organization JETRO. Do you like Japanese food? Sushi? Tempura? Good, good, good. I'm here today to promote Japanese food and trade and investment. There must be some importers, retailers, wholesalers here in the audience. We have some programs to help you to import or say sourcing some Japanese product, or could be technical know-how, exchange, cooperation, etc. here. If you have any questions during the session or after the session, you'll be welcome. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jahangir Loya. I'm Managing Director of Fortune Gourmet Specialities. We are based in Bombay and have a pan-India presence in 17 locations all over India. Our largest segment is HoReCa, which is hotels, restaurants, and caterers, followed by retail. Retail is one of our largest and fastest growing segments right now. We represent brands from all over the world, from Europe, North America, Australia, New Zealand, as far away as South America, Chile as well. Our portfolio is comprised mainly of cheese, followed by charcuterie, salumi, cured meats, followed by seafood, followed by dry goods like pasta, bar syrups, balsamic vinegar, so on and so forth. And it's an exciting panel, and I hope to have an interesting talk with everyone over here. Everyone is a master in their own field, so this should be very interesting.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am Paolo Bray. I am the founder and director of Friend of the Sea, which is a non-profit organization which has developed a unique international certification program for products from sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. Over 500 companies in 50 countries have Friend of the Sea certified products. The audits are run by independent certification bodies with very strict certification requirements. In 2013, we launched the sister or brother project, which is called Friend of the Earth, which is the only international certification for multi-product for products from sustainable agriculture and farming. And we have here a booth, and I'm available for further information later or during the conference. Thanks.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sumit Saran. I head the international foods business for the Future Group, which is one of India's largest retail company. And what should I do it from there, is it? Since there are a couple of slides on Future Group, I might just do it from there.
Maybe Sumit, yeah, you can come in and tell us whether there is a pot of gold in the form of international foods waiting here in India.
Hi, good afternoon. As I said, my name is Sumit Saran, and I look after the international foods at Future Group. In the next 10 minutes or so, I'll just quickly run through some of the trends that we are seeing at the retail level for foreign foods, some of the beliefs that I have that where foreign foods are headed, what Future Group as a company is doing, and how we can, in the long run, partner with you. We are as a group, we are in three clear areas, which is retail, brands, and infrastructure. A lot of you will be familiar with our brands. Big Bazaar. We are probably the only Indian retailer which caters to all segments of the population. So you have a big box, Big Bazaar in the center, but we go one up and one down. For the purpose here, I would restrict myself to Food Hall, which is our gourmet format. Just a quick look at some of those things, and the company that I represent, which is the back-end company to the front-end retail, is the company called Future Consumer. And this is some of the glimpse of our stores. And this is some of you might not have seen this store. This is a new store that has just come up. It's called Big Bazaar Generation Next. This is a store that actually merges a Big Bazaar to a food hall. So we are really looking at high value and gourmet foods in a larger format space. And then infrastructure, I'll just quickly show you what we've done on the infrastructure front. And at the end of this 10 minutes, I'll leave you with 7, 8, 10 quick mantras. Hopefully they'll be takeaways for you when you go back, help you better define an international strategy for a domestic Indian market. Mohit has already covered the knowing India bit. It's all there, it's all documented. The important thing to this is something that Mohit touched upon, is that the GDP growth rate. We have seen that food growth tends to be 5-7% higher than the GDP growth. So if you're looking at a 7%, 7.5% GDP, you are definitely talking at a grocery growth rate of 12 to 13%. So even a bad day, India continues to be a good market. Second, we are part of WTO, so there are certain international obligations, and we got to import, and we'll import. I won't go into details because this is again things that would have been covered. But there are 3 or 4 quick points. One that you will see, and we see it in our retail every day, imported foods are moving from niche to mainstream. A lot of, you can call it impulse, you can call it bulk, but a lot of products are becoming mainstream food for an Indian. Second, the small family size and a disposable income in their hands means, from a food retailer point of view, what it means is that in the past, you might have to work through a group of 7, 8 people to actually get your product introduced to a family. Today, in a smaller family, you can actually work through one person, and the product can be in the shelf. And that population, which has a disposable income, it's a very, very deadly combination that we have. Again, these are documented data that I don't want to go into, but somebody actually pointed something very interesting to me. I used to be very proud to say that India is the 12th largest food economy in the world. And somebody very naively asked me, and it actually put me to think, how can the second largest population be the 12th largest market? That means even with what we are consuming, there is a drastic difference. that this food economy has to grow many folds. What is projected that we'll become fifth, but I think there still will be road to cover. And if I look at how the mindset of consumption is changing, again, 2 or 3 very quick points. What we saw, and I used to do a lot of work of promotion, etc. What we saw in 2005 was that food was mostly eaten at home and outside food was an indulgence. I know a lot of people who are eating 3-4 times a week out. Ready to eat and ready to cook was growing that time, but the modern day Indian consumer is looking at a nutrition side to the ready to eat and ready to cook. Fresh is increasing across our retail formats. You will see fresh is the growth trend. And the last one is probably a very key sector, and it's an area that we work upon, was what we call as millennial consumers who've been born in the 2000s, is that the mama's food, the mama's magic is fading in kitchen. There is now a whole population of Indian mothers who are growing up who neither know how to cook, neither have any interest in cooking, neither would ever want their daughters to get into the kitchen. So they need help. And that's where the processed food market has a huge impact that we are seeing. So if I look at food imports, it breaks through every channel. Any product, data is this presentation I'm going to leave, so you'll get the data. But if you look at any product, the growth trends are, it's just up and up and up. The processed food imports, which I believe a lot of you here are addressing, that's a sector that I believe still has that, it has reached a threshold point, but it still has to take that steep upward curve. It's growing and it's growing very fast, but I think there are certain things that I believe if we do it, it will take us to that next level for processed food or packaged value-added imported foods. So the success route for India that I say, first you have to understand that India is different. India is not a Singapore, India is not a Dubai, India is not a Hong Kong. Good, bad or ugly, for whatever you are producing, I would say 90%, we will have an alternative. So you may be a jam, biscuit, anything, juice, there will be an Indian variant. That does not mean that there is not scope for another international brand to come and establish. So we look at foreign foods in 2 formats. If you want to be a niche player, we have the retail in food hall. Mohit has it in Godrej basket. There are a few other retailers in the GT who take it. What we believe is that if you've got to take it to the next level, what we call it is that you be premium to masses, or you create those bridges to luxury that an aspirational population has that tendency to pick up. And the simple mantra for that, I believe, is Make in India. And if you think on this, the big boys in the game, the Cokes, the Pepsis, and the Nestles of the world realized this ages ago. That the Coke can that you buy in India is a Coke can, but the Coke can is a made in India can. And this thing is for the small and medium food companies to understand and take forward. And it was never easy to say, come and establish a factory in India. So what as Future Group we have done, we invested about $150 million US in this thing which we call as the India Food Park. There are some pictures. This is just outside Bangalore, and I'll encourage any of you to go there and see the park for yourself. What it provides you is a gated environment where you can come and partner and produce. So these are some of the actual pictures from the park. And it's as world-class as an environment that you can get anywhere in the world that you now get in India. So you now think of Make in India or partner in India. You have 600 stores at your backyard. And then you promote and you concentrate on your distribution. So my final 10 mantras that I wanted to leave you with today. Hopefully this will help you discover your pot of gold. Mantra number 1 is that troubles here will not go away. So you accept it. If you think that we can sit in Bandra Kurla complex and India's import duty is going to change, it's not going to change. But growth will continue. This market is hungry. The growth will continue, so you got to embrace it. And these are trends that you will see across. Mantra number 2. There may be clutter at the bottom, but in India, there is always room at the top. So don't just get stuck on price. Don't just get stuck on price. There might be other things that you can look at to promote your product. And Food Hall, Nature's Basket are a classic examples of how we are seeing growth at the top. Define your, this is a picture actually out of my office. What I said, define your India. We also wanted our India's growth to be much more inclusive. But the fact is two India live side by side to each other. Figure out which India you want to serve and concentrate on it. So you have a clear market strategy. Partner with modern retail. I think we are your best bet. I have seen that this is a revolution in the making. I think you can go top down. It will be very difficult for you to come bottom up. Bad apples, and I hear this all the time, bad apples are not unique to India. One bad deal in India does not mean India is bad, or the growth is not there. So let not one bad apple spoil your brunch. It might distaste you for a bit, but the potential in the market remains, and you got to stand by it. Something that we definitely believe is that it's not just about investment. Don't think you can just invest and find success here. My mantra is get involved. Hold our hands. Work with us. Partner with us. Partner with your importer. Partner with your partner. Like I said, price is important. But for Indians, value is critical. If I see a value in a BMW or a Mercedes, I'll go and buy it. It's not about that India does not produce own indigenous cars. If I see a value in a Rolex, I'll go and buy it. Promote. Do whatever but promote. Reach out. We tend to reach out a lot to women 25 to 45. I think promotion agency, and if there are bodies here from promotion bodies, look at the other 4 characters in that picture as well. We are seeing that the woman comes to the shop with a shopping list. The man is the free atom in the store. So if you want to launch something new, also target the man. If you are able to convince the family that the product is either good for the children or good for the elders, there is no stopping. So the 3 Ps, partner, promote, and persevere. We are looking for new products. So variety, we say, is the spice of life. You keep the taste buds excited. And finally, I am glad you are here. There is life beyond Google. So what I say is come and smell the chai for yourself. Work with us, partner with the team here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sumit. So I think Sumit's, one of the things that he said was growth will continue. And I think that's really the mantra. And if you're talking about international foods, let me open this question now to the panel here. So Sumit says growth will continue. What has been your experience with your respective businesses? When he says growth will continue, are you seeing growth continuing? Have you seen growth? And if so, in what kind of products? So international foods, as we all know, is a very, very wide spectrum of goods. So are we really seeing growth across? Are we seeing growth in specific products? Are we seeing growth across India? Are we seeing growth in specific cities? Are we seeing growth across channels? Are we seeing it in specific channels? So this question is open to everybody, anybody who would like to take it on from here. Maybe Harshita, you would like to start?
So I think about 2 years ago when we had some of the regulatory issues that happened with the FSSAI, everybody's aware of the Maggi debacle that happened. Our businesses all did take a bit of a slump because everybody had to go back and re-engineer their products. Our company was one of the companies that started doing that in 2013. We didn't get hurt as badly, and we have seen tremendous growth ever since. We've gone from 16 cities to 45 cities. We've reduced the number of brands but increased our volume We've increased our volume drastically, in some cases by 200%. We have seen impulse products give throughput like never before. When I mean impulse, I'm talking about products like chocolate, chips, things that you just open and eat. They have exceeded all expectations. And that's because we've been able to go out to cities where people know what a chip is. They're used to eating Lays, but today they want to treat themselves. So they go back to look for a chip that's imported. Or they go back to the store that instead of buying a dairy milk, today I'll buy a Ferrero Rocher or I'll buy a Della Viuda, that they will treat themselves. Even that once a month treat in a country like ours with such a large population translates to really big numbers. That aspirational value is where I've seen the biggest growth in the impulse category. Cuisine-based products have also given tremendous growth, but only in the top 15 cities, not in what we would call the B type cities. The cooking at home is growing in the larger metros and the A cities. Cuisines like Moroccan is growing extremely well. Mexican is growing extremely well.
And
I see Asian
You're
actually,
saying it's growing across cities, across tiers, tier 2, tier 3, etc.
absolutely. I see Asian degrowing, and you see more of Italian, Mexican, Moroccan. They're really climbing up there. About 3 years ago, it was all about Asian.
Right. And Jahangir, would you say that this has been your experience as well as somebody who imports a lot of products which are not necessarily only in the impulse sector? I mean, you import a lot of cheese and charcuterie and a lot of cuisine-based products in general, right?
Yeah. Sorry. If I look at ingredient-based, Harshita's covered the ready products already, but if you look at ingredient-based foods, first, my distinguished colleague and friend, Sumit, was talking about women not being in the kitchen anymore. Maybe he's right about that statistically, but if you look at cooking shows in India, if you look at the viewership of MasterChef Australia, India has the largest viewership in the world. We have a larger viewership than Australia and Europe combined. Now that tells you something. One of the brands I represent, one of the judges from MasterChef is a brand ambassador for the brand. And when he was in India, he was like a rock star. He was actually in Chandigarh, which is a growing city, used to be considered a tier 2, which is now a tier 1. And he was swamped, not just by housewives, but by young men. And that says something about an ingredient and how it's growing. It's almost become a barometer for success. It's not about the watch you wear or the mobile phone you have or the car you drive, but your understanding of food. And I do see this happening not just in tier 1 cities, so-called tier 1 cities. This is across the board.
Just to add to your point, I recently read that there are 845 food shows across languages and across channels that are running in the country.
Correct.
And an average Indian is watching 8 minutes of food-based programming every day.
Correct.
Which is hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Which talks about the exposure that our country is getting at this point of time.
Right.
But have you seen, for instance, the kind of growth in cheese, the kind of growth in, let's say, a pasta sauce, as, let's say, a Harshita is seeing in chocolates and snacks and chips and so on and so forth?
We have, but I shouldn't even be going into this. I've gotten in trouble for doing it before. The elephant in the room, which Harshita did talk about, FSSAI. This new food police has stunted our growth considerably. They are using laws that are pre and post independence, which is, if you look at cheese specifically, FSSAI recognizes 17 different kinds of cheese. All of them are English cheese because of our colonial masters. Sorry, no offense meant there. So if you're bringing in a cheese like a feta, for instance, which is recognized all over the world, they had a process of product approval that was needed for that, which was a long, lengthy process, and So we've seen a culling of our portfolio dramatically because of our food police. But in the segments that are allowed, we have seen growth factors of between 45 and 60%.
That's fabulous, actually.
Yeah.
And the same question to Adam and Chandar. I mean, as let's say somebody who's responsible for bringing in American products, or let's say Chandar, who's based in the Gulf. Are you seeing similar growth in your, for your portfolio of products as well?
Just looking at raw trade data numbers for India over the last 5 years, we've seen values double in 5 years' time. And that's across bulk commodities, where over the last year we saw India buying a lot of imported pulses from North America or Southern Hemisphere. Intermediate consumer-oriented products, some of which stay in the country and then might be processed and re-exported out. But as well as in consumer-oriented goods, we've seen tremendous growth even in this last year, now that some of the regular and transparency issues have been kind of ironed out. We're seeing a resurgence in consumer-oriented goods, especially those from the United States, fresh fruits, dried fruits, a handful of other goods really coming on strong now. So from products from the United States or being imported into India, not just the international goods made here, but the imported goods, we are seeing good growth over the last 5 years. Doubling is, I think, a very remarkable achievement, despite these challenges which have been mentioned by other speakers on the panel.
I must say there is a lot of change we have seen in the last couple of years in terms of taste, preferences, and innovation in food products in India. Like Indian products are more famous in outside, and similarly, even the imported products are liked by Indian very much due to healthy, because today the people can afford those products and they like the taste, they would like to try healthy foods. And India being a large population market, I see there is a lot of potential for imported products, either to export from outside countries or even set up plants in India. So we as a manufacturer, we see India as a very big market, and in the near future we are planning to set up a manufacturing industry somewhere in India, most likely in Gujarat or nearby, to produce these products for the Indian market. And
again, would you be targeting, let's say, specific products, specific groups of products, or would this be across product categories?
We want to bring the innovative products, and especially and customized to the Indian taste. Like you said, pizza sauce, pasta sauce. These are, when you taste the pasta sauce in Europe, it is different. When you taste the pizza or pasta sauce in India, is different. So our idea is to first customize the taste and then launch in India. I have exposure back in Dabur when we launched the juice in India way back in 1993. Nobody liked the juice in the beginning because it was having a very bitter taste like Tropicana. But when we customized to Indian, like a little more sweet, little more colorful, little more flavor, today the real juice from Dabur is about 1200 crore. So it's rightly said, we have to customize the food to Indian taste, and I'm sure there is a very big market for these products.
Right, yeah. Elsa, would you like to add something?
Well, I think it's interesting just understanding just what sort of British products are being successful in a market like India. I was interested to hear the Moroccan food that you're talking about comes from Britain. In Britain, we have a very varied cuisine. There's traditional British foods, the heritage brands, but because of the wide ethnic groups that we have in Britain that produce fantastic food products, our export success is stemming from our ability to be innovative, to understand different cultures, and bring the best of the whole range of British foods. But also, I was extremely pleased to see how well British cheese is now starting to sell in India, which it has taken us a long time to be as proud as we are of our British cheeses, and I'm delighted to see how successful that now is.
Ishiura-san.
Thank you. Today I came with some figures. So do you know how many Japanese restaurants in the world? Do you have any idea? No. Okay, 2 years ago, year 2013, it's little more than half lakh. 2 2 years later, last year, it is like 89,000. So over 2 years, 60% increase of Japanese restaurant. Why? Maybe Japanese food has some healthy image, low calorie, fancy, something different. And this global trend is also happening in India. I'm in Chennai for last 2.5 years, and I observe a lot of Japanese restaurants and five-star hotels. And they serve pan-Asian food, not only Japanese, but Vietnamese, Chinese, Thais. Those foods are really getting popular. And this kind of cuisine-based approach will certainly grow in the near future too.
Right. Paolo, would you like to add?
Yes, sure. In terms of our organization, we experienced a continuous growth in the past 3 years of 25% increase in the number of companies with certified products every year. But I think the audience would be interested also to understand the trend globally. And to do this, I think it's important to understand the difference between organic certification and sustainability certification. Organic is more specific on assessing the impact on the, in terms of pollution of the land, of the water, coming from use of pesticides. Sustainability has a more holistic approach, and it looks at the different potential impacts in terms of land use, water consumption, energy consumption, and also social accountability and economic rentability. So as far as organic, we have seen an increase since the early 90s in Europe, which is the most mature area for the organic market, from 0% to approximately 3% in the year 2000. And then in terms of products on the shelves, it has stabilized. Some countries like Germany, Austria have a higher percentage, but that's an exception, and overall average in Europe is 3%. India, there's no reason to expect a different trend, even though it's a more recent market for organic, and consequently, there's currently an estimated 1 to 2% shelf space in the retail chains, and the growth is faster because it's a new market. It's about 25% compared to the current 14% in Europe. It's a 14%, which is, however, going up and down. But anyway, it's much faster than the average growth, which is 3% for non-organic products. So one could expect that also in India, the maximum percentage will arrive at about 3 or 4% or something like that, and then we'll stand there probably for several years. And instead, if we look at sustainability, our own experience, for example, in aquaculture, we have certified 5 times what is certified aquaculture organic worldwide. We expect sustainability, and this is also proved by the most recent trend studies, market studies, to become really the main driving trend, both for HoReCa as well as retail. And we expect it to become a must. We see organic as a plus, which also has a plus in terms of premium price, and that could be a problem for consumers. We expect sustainability to become a must without a premium price, but it's an entrance must to get into retailers, to get into some producers, etc.
I think there's some important points that Paolo has raised, but before I really get the group talking about some of those points, I thought we must understand, all of you have mentioned that you've seen growth in some way or the other, either in some products or in some markets, etc. But it's important for us to understand what the enablers of this growth have been, so that each one of us as stakeholders, as retailers, as importers, as trade bodies, etc., we can identify those enablers or ensure that we are working around those enablers a lot more in the near future. So if you had to identify some of those factors that have facilitated this growth over the last couple of years, and the and such enablers that we need to continue to look out for. What would those be really? What are those enablers that are causing this growth to happen? Is it just because the customer is changing? Is it just because the customer is evolving? Or are there a few more enablers which are making this growth actually happen? And how can we, fine-tune those and work on those to make this growth happen faster? So anybody can take this on.
So a couple of the enablers that we've seen have been significant to the growth. One has been online. It's been amazing to see that you get orders from the various portals from places that we never thought we should ever go to do distribution or marketing. When we started getting orders for bachelor soups by the case in places like Bhatkal, I had to go and look up the map. I didn't know which state Bhatkal belonged to. It's in Karnataka, by the way. That was an amazing experience, and it has continued. And when you see that if we do distribution in 45 cities, via the online channel, at one given time, we mapped up to 62 cities. The same product range. Physically available in 45 cities, via online available in 62 cities. So that was an amazing growth, amazing thing to see. The other one has been the one that nobody likes to talk about, but I love, is the general trade channel, the independent store retailers. While modern trade is obviously very important and growing and in focus and the talk in places like this, what we have seen is that the independent retailer who has really tried to, in order to compete, come up to people like us and say, look, enhance my range, let me bring in a new customer, let me try and get a little bit extra happening. And because their processes are so simple, it's a one-point entry, right? You speak to one person, they say yes, your goods go in. We've been able to grow tremendously in the general trade channel. 3 years ago, 80% of our business used to come from modern trade. Today, 50% comes from general trade in just 3 years. Not because we focus, it's because they want it and they're easier to get into. Modern trade, while we would love to partner with them more, and I'm not talking about you, Mohit, you're my best friend actually. It's the other larger retailers where the buyers don't necessarily understand why products like this should be there, and the growth could be better.
Let me get in Sumit at this point for his view.
I confess. No, you're right. You're right. Sometimes large, big box retailers like us, 103 cities, 600 stores in different shapes and formats. Sometimes we don't ourselves understand, and that's why I can only talk on behalf of Future Group. We are putting a lot of effort in market analytics, in trying to understand what small cities are throwing up. The Big Bazaar generation next that you see, it's not just that this has happened because of chance. It has happened because that's the way forward we see for ourselves. And you will see this, this concept of proliferation and we being more inclusive for international foods as we move along.
I hope so.
An interesting enabler that I see, and I see this often whether we're talking about sustainability or organic or a US product or a British product, is Horeca. And it was very early in its day, but we had specifically an organic restaurant in Bombay, in one of the 5 stars, which was only serving organic food. They aren't around anymore. I think they were too early in their day. But I think Horeca, hotels, restaurants, and caterers, mainly, not even through a media base of television, radio, or social networking, but just exposing their consumers, their customers to food in brunches or on their menu is a huge enabler also. It also encourages the exporter. If I was to go out, there would be a lot of tastings I would have to do in a modern retail format. There would be a lot of educational material that would have to be passed out. There would probably be a chef cooking something over there. When I talk to a chef, I'm talking to a specialist, somebody who would understand the difference between a red Leicester and a cheddar, or a Castelmagno and a Ragusano, and who would be asking for certain things. Talking about sustainability, sustainability comes at a price. So when you are buying a seafood product that is Marine Stewardship Council recognized, you're paying something extra for that certification. And I haven't seen that happening in retail yet, where people are aware of a carbon footprint or aware of the fact that a certain species of fish may be overfished and going into the endangered category. But in HoReCa, you do see that. There are lots of chains, including some Indian chains, where they will only buy from you if you're able to provide them with an MSC certification. So I see HoReCa as being a great enabler. Also, a lot of our food superstars today are actually working chefs who have graduated into this media channel and are now doing a lot to educate people about ingredients and how to use them, so on and so forth. Coming back to something that Harshita was talking about, and the honorable gentleman from Jethro, trends in food are very interesting. And when people talk about India, my friend from Dubai was talking about Indian tastes. Indian tastes are extremely diverse. What I sell in retail and HoReCa in Chennai, I cannot sell in Calcutta. We are a diverse country with diverse tastes, and I'm not just talking about food taboos, be it pork, beef, or vegetarian and non-vegetarian. I mean, even in taste, we're a complicated, diverse country with getting that pulse on understanding what will work is quite a hard go. Japanese food came into its highlight, I think, about 3 years ago, where everyone wanted to be part of the not just the sushi, but the sashimi revolution also. And if you think of Indians eating raw fish, that is an unusual step, unless you are from a coastal community somewhere. So understanding food trends is a hard one, and I think they come and they go. Sometimes I would honestly say that food is more fickle than fashion. And we have fashion, apparel fashion that changes from time to time. It happens with food too, all the time, and you have to keep on that. I don't know whether many of you would be aware of this, but Vittal Mallya, who was Vijay Mallya's father, was producing and bottling Campari in Bangalore for many years. Now, and this ended in the early 70s. When you come to think about it, who was drinking Campari in India? So, yeah.
Interesting. This question is to all the trade bodies, Adam, Ishiura-san, and Paolo, and Elsa maybe. Jahangir spoke of diversity. India is a diverse country. Tastes are very different from what they would be in your part of the world. Do you think enough work has been done by your respective organizations to adapt to the Indian taste? Have you customized some products? Have you seen some success there? Maybe you'd like to share. Or you feel that the Indian population that is evolving now is a lot more accepting of products as they come in?
Well, I think as a government body, we're not out there directing traffic and telling people what kind of tastes work. I mean, globally, your U.S. brands know that already. That what sells in the northeast of the United States is going to be something very different in taste and texture and character profile from something that sells in the southwest. But what I think, what we've talked about a bit is the professionalization of the whole food service and food trade industry. As things become much more professionalized, I think we're realizing the nuances of what might be different in a Marathi type cuisine versus a Punjab versus a Chandigarh. And whether it's taste or even if it's something as basic as size, the size of a Washington apple which sells in Chennai is very different from the size of an apple which sells in North India. And so our traders and Indian suppliers are really understanding that. And I mean, I don't want necessarily to be patting everybody's backs here on the stage, but I think that big enabler for growth in the industry has been this professionalization, these importers, distributors who want to work and partner with suppliers from overseas and retailers in country to really have that, that understanding of how markets are different and what needs to be done and really manage a brand versus just opportunistic trading. So I think that is a great enabler that we can't overlook. Yes, there is a consumer, and yes, there is maybe every consumer is becoming an expert in things, but these importer-distributor linkages with suppliers from overseas and customers in India, I think that is a big enabler that we can't overlook.
Would you like to add something, Chandra?
I see there is a lot of customization is definitely required. Like we produce mayonnaise, so many of our customers, they come to us, are you producing veggie mayonnaise? So we like veggie mayonnaise. So by doing this, we are reaching to closer to our consumer, those who like different tastes in different part of the world. But especially when I see the example of McDonald's, when they make a tikki burger, which is only for India, and it goes from north to south, everyone likes it. So the idea is to develop the product which are basically target for your majority of the customer, urban, semi-urban, and to the developed market. So that's the takeoff from there I want to share.
Right. So customization, therefore, is one of the big enablers, as you say. So, so while there are a couple of enablers that we've spoken about, online is something that Harshita spoke about. She also spoke about general trade as a channel, being a big enabler. Have any of you? So, Jahangir, is there something that you would like to add? I mean, is that something that you have also experienced? General trade being a big enabler, or you find that for temperature-sensitive products that you carry, that may not be as big a channel?
Definitely, no. General trade has metamorphosized itself from what we would think of a Kirana store and what a Kirana store is today. Along with that, unlike Harshita's, a lot of our products are temperature controlled. So we have seen a lot of online growth, but the logistics, the cold chain logistics nightmare of actually delivering to tier 3 and tier 4 cities where temperatures have to be maintained is a challenge, and that has been a challenge with us. Even with the general trade, the trend used to be that most general trade people would shut their refrigeration off at night and hope that it maintains the temperature. Even that has changed. So yes, general trade is definitely something that needs to be paid attention to. They're also, unlike a lot of you organized big boys, are able to maintain a one-on-one relationship with people, which is a great thing, even when they have a vast customer base.
So we've spoken about the enablers. What about the kind of challenges that we are facing? And I'm sure each one of you would have a lot to say on the kind of challenges. And we'll, to borrow a word, we'll not speak too much about the food police. We'll speak about all other challenges that may be there.
Well, our is a very specific area. However, to speak about the challenges, I have to go a little bit back to the enablers. And of course, there are different stakeholders who decide about sustainable production or organic production, and the consumers. And they are motivated for different reasons, but mainly their willingness to do something for the environment. And in India, it seems to be the main concern is to avoid products, source products which have been controlled and so are safer for their health, etc., etc. And that's one of the main drive for organic. And then there are other stakeholders like the government, of course, which can provide incentives for production, organic production. And there are the retailers. And there we come to our challenge, especially in India, where the consumer is still not so environmentally aware. And so the retailers and the restaurant chains play a very important part with their initiatives to source sustainably, to source sustainable, to source organic. And our message is for those who are already doing something, are already doing this, and there's a big number of them, especially the big organizations, keep on, expand your range, both private label as well as requirement for other sourced products, to be officially certified by accredited certification programs, organic or sustainable. And for those who still haven't gone that far, don't wait for consumer demand. It should be your own company policy to source from sustainable sources.
Act responsibly as an organization.
To know where your products are coming from and what type of impact they have. And this is very important, and the pace, the timing is also very important. So do that as fast as possible.
Maybe there could be a policy initiative in that regard, wherein there is some kind of an incentive from the government. Possibly it may work a little better. It may act as a SOP for organizations both at the manufacturing level as well as at the retailing level. But currently, what's your experience? I mean, is there consumer demand for sustainable products or for?
Very small actually, because the awareness at the retail level is low. I'm sure it'll grow. Right now they're still grappling with the difference between natural and organic and preserved, etc. But I'll tell you, if I go back to your original question, Mohit, I think one of the other big challenges that we faced is trying to get our principals, the people that we represent for the Indian market, to understand the Indian consumer and to understand the patience that it takes and the funds that it takes to promote your products. They tend to just compare it back to Europe or US or Australia. Well, it doesn't work quite like that. And then you have principals who say, well, it'll sell amazingly at Nature's Basket. I know, but I can't sell a container in Nature's Basket alone. So dealing with principals to make them understand that it takes time and that you need to pick the right star product from your range and then work at it over here in India and build it from scratch as compared to just sitting with the importer and say, well, so how many containers will you buy? And then I say 0 and walk away. Big challenge, trying to get principals to understand such a complex country, and but that there's potential. It'll take time, it'll take money, it'll take customization. Then it happens.
I agree with Harshita completely over there, and I'm going to direct this at Adam actually. North America is phenomenally hard for this. They don't want to talk to you about anything. They're worse than the Germans, and the Germans are bad. They don't want to talk about anything other than a 40-foot container. And although that is changing, that is something we face. But a huge problem that this is even before FSSAI came into being. We used to import a lot of Japanese seafood, which was sashimi grade that we used to fly in. And the testing procedure would take more than 15 days, and the life of the product was about 10 days. And up to date, I was getting a product out of Osaka. Now, Osaka is halfway to the Philippines, and nowhere near where the tragedy with the radiation took place. And the Indian government still insists on radioactive testing of an entire container. Now, an entire container is of seafood. So the bureaucracy we face over here is staggering, and making our principals understand that sometimes becomes a frustrating endeavor where they either throw their hands up and say, it's too complicated, we're not interested, or they struggle along with you. Sumit, sorry.
What I hear both of you talking about, one is about a lot more patience in the Indian market because it takes time, and you're talking about maybe a little less of bureaucracy. Sumit, would you like to add?
Absolutely hitting the nail on the head. Exact point that I was trying to make is for this word to travel back, that you got to work in this market. The last slide I left you with was that come here and smell the chai. That you come here and work on certain products that has seen a certain growth level. And I just wanted to clear, there is, and this is not to just food, but across the industry I said, there is a bit of misunderstanding between make in India and made in India. When we say make in India, we are not saying made in India. We are saying bring it from anywhere, sell it anywhere. Process it here, package it here. It's in a lot of terms, we are seeing beautiful benefits being passed on to companies. All that they've done is brought in the ingredients, but locally packaged. Look at juice as a category. I was told, and I'm no juice expert, I'm told 70% of a juice can is water. Why do you pay 30% duty and freight on water? What does it take for a good juice brand to come in here, set up a local bottling? I was working with a saffron company. For a 1 gram saffron, they pay duty on 25 gram of glass bottle. Why can't you bring it in 5 kilo box and pack it here? That's the, and I don't know, we all agree, this word needs to travel. And that's something where you people can...
you know, apart from some of the points that you've raised here, what about a little bit more, you know, maybe a little more conventional hassles? For example, the absence of good road transport in the country, or the absence of established cold chain facilities. Don't you think that's a challenge? Especially for somebody like you who has a lot of temperature controlled products, temperature sensitive products. Would that be a challenge for your growth?
It's a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge, and we at Fortune have actually invested money in service providers so that they can meet our standards. Even with our distributors, we try and get them a HACCP certification so that they can maintain the standards we are maintaining ourselves. Cold chain is a huge hassle. Frozen in India can move, but when you talk about a plus degree product, which is +3 to +5, which is cheese and charcuterie and so forth, it's a huge.
And not to talk about the time taken at the port for clearance.
Right, of course. But just to give you some statistics, some actual figures, it's cheaper for me to fly in something from Milan, from Malpensa to Bombay, than it is for me to fly it from Bombay to Calcutta. So it is a hard thing.
Streamlining there.
Sorry, just something on Sumit and Make in India. This is, I'd like to use 2 examples. One is an Italian company that made artisanal pasta called Rusticella di Abruzzo, who we worked with for many years, has set up outside of Jaipur. And they spent a lot of money and a lot of time getting the right durum wheat that they require for the pasta. And they are now producing in India, and very successfully. They're looking at exporting to Japan and the Far East out of India too. We have some principals from Australia who have collaborated in cheese making in India. And the product that you're getting out is fabulously good. So yeah, Make in India is something that should be addressed.
So in that context, and this question is to Ishu, Ras and Adam, Chandar, do you find that are there any barriers in terms of tariffs or duties, etc.? Do you find them very high in India? I mean, could lowering of duties help foster faster growth?
Yes, I see in many of the products, India has very high duties. Like I take example of oats. India is not producing the oats grain, and all the oats grains are imported from Australia, Canada or US. And when you buy the oats flakes to India, the duty is about 40%. And when you bring the oats raw material and process it in India, it's a very big duty saving. You can save almost about $250 per ton, which is almost half the cost of the oats when we import. So duty is definitely a big barrier, even in our kind of products like
there could be
Meoni.
Specific categories where we could, look at lowering of duties.
Lowering of the duties, yes.
Specifically on confectionery, it's 69% duty. Coffee is 200% duty.
Tea is another
Tea is
category.
110% duty. It's ridiculous.
And we're not even talking about wines and beers and stuff like
I
that.
can't even go there.
Yeah, this is something that we in the U.S. Deal with quite regularly with trading partners around the world. I think what we have publicly said in multilateral fora is that for food and agricultural products, India's average bound rate for tariffs is around 40+%. But there's products which are down at 0, and there's products up at 150 and above. But These are rates which not only affect imported U.S. products, affect products imported into India from Australia, Europe, Africa, East Asia, what have you. And with lower tariffs, you would think that lower prices would be able to reach a larger audience, but prices are very sticky on the way down. And if we even have lower prices, there's not always that guarantee that there'll be a lower retail point sale. And so that would turn the table back on the retailers to try to reach more audience members. But we do think that the average WTO tariff rate for food and agricultural products among WTO members is about 8%. India is at 40%. We would love to see you down, especially in products where there's no domestic competition. Things like blueberry or pecan, or even some of the processed food products. We would love to see those tariff rates come down, but we need Indian stakeholders. We need Indian consumers. We need Indian manufacturers. We need Indian audience to be the ones talking to the Indian government about this, because once you have a multilateral partner talking to India, it's going to be a much different discussion. So having stakeholders in India, those who are coming to these forums, the emerging foodie class, they're really the ones who need to be speaking to the politicians and the bureaucrats to help make this change effected.
Wonderful. Any final word from any of the panelists? So what is your mantra for growing the international foods market in India faster? Any final words, anybody?
I'll say one thing. I just, I think, it's a very exciting time to be here. I think people are seeing choice. You have choice in clothing, you have choice in cars, you have choice in size or scale of apartment, and we just want to see choice in food be something that comes to consumers.
Mohit, for me, despite all the problems that we may have discussed, I think this is the business to be in, the food business. It's amazing. Like, I get really excited when you open a new store, when the Gen Next store comes up. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of excitement that comes in from myself, from my team, from our principals, from everybody we represent. The average consumer's awareness, the way it has increased, it just makes you want to keep going and do more and more. It's a good time. Anyone who invests in it right now is going to make it. It's a really good time, despite FSSAI.
Well, I have a message for producing companies here from India and elsewhere regarding the future and sustainability and certification. Don't think that sustainability is something you can do without. We have started with the certification of seafood, and nowadays all the producers that are in the program, or many other companies, have finally realized that sustainability is a way to ensure their own business for the future. If you deplete the fish stock, you won't have any more business in the future. The price of the products will grow very high. It will fluctuate a lot if you don't manage it properly. And the same goes also for agricultural production. And sustainability certification is an opportunity also to lower your costs in terms of energy, water use, resources, etc. And it's expected by consumers. It can provide you with an added value, but that's could be a secondary aspect. So in the future, consider it as a must and start the process.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.